Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nugget News. Well, never a dull day in crypto with a new Satoshi candidate coming to light. This image itself has been floating around for a little while, and I have read about this, but there's a few new pieces of evidence which are tying some dots together to make this really interesting. Now, a while ago, I did my video on who I think is Satoshi, with Dave Kleiman, Hal Finney, and Wade Dyer being the most likely candidates. But we know Craig Wright has been pushing his claim, and he's earned the name Fake Toshi. A lot of people think he's just an outright fraud, and other people think he was involved in some way early on. But let's get in and have a look at this story. So who is Paul LaRue, or Paul Salatoshi on one of his passports, as it says here? Well, he's a 46-year-old criminal mastermind who's the creator of encryption software. And we believe that this encryption software is actually being used to encrypt those 1 million Bitcoins on a hard drive. And he actually had an uncannily similar manifesto to one of Bitcoin's white papers back in 1998. But we'll get to all this further on in the story. So he's been in jail since 2012, which is when Satoshi sort of fell off the radar as well. And he's been linked to Craig Wright's court case through some of these documents here. So this has all come about because of the Craig Wright versus Dave Kleiman court case, where his family is suing him, saying that Craig Wright stole the hard drive with Bitcoins from Dave Kleiman when he passed away back in 2013. Because before that, Dave Kleiman and Craig Wright were actually business partners. So this new candidate here that's been dragged in this case is a former cartel boss, drug smuggler, arms dealer, and has since become an informant to the DEA, but also a genius programmer. So a long history of smuggling, land deals, trafficking, money laundering, and all this sort of thing that Bitcoin was involved with in the early days. Now, he's currently in the custody in the US and acting as an informant for ordering the assassination of 6 people. So how did a guy who's been described as a brilliant programmer and vicious cartel boss get involved in this court case? So if we come down here to this story, we know that Dave Kleiman passed away in 2013, and this is when it's been in the courts ever since. And even the ATO is involved, saying, well, Craig, if you've got all those coins, you owe tax and all this sort of thing. So it really is crazy, and this is hard for the courts to determine the truth, because if you're an average person or you're on the jury of this case, you don't have your head around Bitcoin, blockchain, encryption, and all these sort of things. So I definitely think that there can be a little bit of bluffing, and a lot of people have said that Craig's become known for that. If he's really is Satoshi, why not just sign a transaction or move some of the original coins to prove it once and for all? But we'll get to that as well at the end here. So all sorts of bizarre theories have been unfolding during this court case, but it's this document 187 that has been brought forward that has dragged LaRue into this evidence. So there was a piece of this document that should have been redacted that wasn't in the footnotes, and this identifies Paul LaRue, the drug kingpin here, as we can see. Now, the reason that you redact all this personal information is because it puts a big target on the drug informant's back, which may have been Craig Wright in this case here as well. So it's starting to turn into a real Bond villain sort of story, as they say here. And this footnote does have that link to his Wikipedia page, where it says that LaRue may be very well one of the criminals that Craig Wright is afraid of, and because of the repercussions. So this is where it starts to get super fascinating as well. So if Craig is in possession of these 1 million Bitcoins, it's believed that they are encrypted with the open source software that Paul LaRue himself actually created. Now, the tale of these events is that Craig Wright and his longtime friend and business partner Dave Kleiman managed to get their hands on this encrypted hard drive with the 1 million Bitcoins on it, possibly after they dobbed in LaRue, and they were working for him or informants themselves, and they knew that, hey, if we dob in this guy, we can actually get these Bitcoins. But they didn't know at the time that it was secured or encrypted with this TrueCrypt software that he had created. And the rumor goes that Craig Wright has spent years trying to crack these hard drives without success, which is why he hasn't been able to prove that he's Satoshi. And this is why they're saying he's teamed up with Calvin Ayre, who's got a lot of these this hardware, a lot of computing power, and they're trying to brute force and break that encryption, that password. And at some time in the future, they may do this in the coming years, and that's when they'll say, see, we'll prove it, we are Satoshi, because they'll finally have access to these Bitcoins. But, you know, if it's a good long string password, maybe it's in Paul LaRue's head, maybe they'll never crack that password, the encryption, and those Bitcoins will remain on that hard drive there. So pretty crazy theory. Craig is setting himself up to be the real Satoshi if he does ever crack these hard drives. And I'll let you pause the video and read this email here. I'm saying that I have the files on Dave's, but I can't access them now because of the TrueCrypt partitions. Okay, so this is where we start to get into the strong parallels between Paul LaRue and Satoshi Nakamoto. So we know that he used this alias Salochi on one of his fake passports. Brilliant programmer, familiar with C++ coding language, which we know Bitcoin is written in. Back in 1997, he began working on encryption for the masses software, capable of encrypting entire disks with optional plausible deniability. So, he's got that background and political stance as well here for, that libertarianism, avoiding banks, avoiding governments, getting away from the system, I guess, so to speak here. So strong encryption mechanisms used to fight and combat intrusion, pervasion of your rights, guarantee your freedoms in the information age and beyond. So that very much fits with the ethos of Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, his Bitcoins are allegedly locked away with that software that I already mentioned before. The suspicion is compelling because LaRue's former colleagues believe he had worked on it, but they couldn't find any collaborating evidence, so it's a bit of a mystery here. Now, his disappearance lines up with that timeline, so Satoshi disappeared in 2011 to move on to other things, and around that time, LaRue transitioned from his field in software development to a cartel boss. During this time, he experienced disruptions with his illegal global pharmaceutical business when the US government and DEA restricted distribution. There you go. So what do you guys think? Is this timeline starting to fit together? Is there too many coincidences here, or is this, just stretching to join these dots? Now, the final thing here is a post from 2011, 2002, 7 years before Bitcoin was created, believed to be from LaRue, saying that I have this idea for a future with peer-to-peer banking, a decentralized and secure system. Gone would be the times of governments and banks can track and interfere with money transfers or even interfere with the total amount of money on Earth. My envisioned system would have a fixed total amount of money, but each money unit, say virtual coin, would be divisible indefinitely. So kind of deflation would replace inflation, and this is why we all love Bitcoin. It's a comparatively deflationary asset. The total value of the money on the world would be a fixed number. It poses no problem for liquidity because the currency can be divided into smaller units at any time. However, people would not spend their money much because its value would increase so often. Other problems raised in the areas of security, malicious use, and how to come towards such system from our current systems. These are just ideas. I would like to hear comments about it. So that all sounds very much like the thoughts of someone that was looking to create Bitcoin here. Plenty of other parallels there in his mannerisms and whatnot, but I'll let you read the rest of this story. But I thought this was super interesting, guys. I did not know that Craig Wright was possibly in possession of this hard drive that's encrypted and he's trying to brute force it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is this just another story that's being made up, or do you think that Paul may be Satoshi, and what are the implications for Bitcoin if a criminal mastermind is actually the creator? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.